Vital MTBers, it's new e-bike day, 4 to be exact. Today, Canyon announced 4 new or updated eMTBs for 2021, all featuring Shimano's EP8 drive system. We have a first ride review on one of them, the brand new long travel 27.5-inch wheeled Torque On. Before we go further with the Torque On, we'll touch on the other new models. Canyon has the mixed wheel size 150mm travel Spectral On, the 29er Neuron On with 130 mils of travel, and the hardtail Grand Canyon On. The Spectral and Neuron run 630 watt-hour batteries, while the Grand Canyon uses a 504 watt-hour battery. US riders shouldn't get too excited, however, as the Neuron and the Grand Canyon are not available in our market. Canyon is a consumer direct bike brand, which means bikes are purchased directly through canyon.com and they're shipped to your door. There's no local bike shop involved in the process. We want to be clear that since Vital is not a bike buying customer, we cannot speak to the actual, real-life experience of buying a bike from Canyon or interacting with their customer service department. As you probably guessed, the Torque On e-machine is based on Canyon's freeride bike of the same Torque name. The Torque On comes in 2 alloy-only models, the 8 or the 9, with 180 mils of front travel and 175 millimeters out back. We were quite happy Canyon went alloy to keep prices in check. US buyers only have access to the Torque On 8, which retails for a very respectable $5,399 US. The 8 features a RockShox Super Deluxe R shock and Zeb R fork with the Shimano SLX level drivetrain and brakes. On paper, that spec is dialed, and Vital would have been elated to test one for ourselves. Due to COVID-19 complications, and media bikes having been ordered months ago, we were sent the Torque On 9, which is not available in the US. The 9 features Fox factory suspension and SRAM drivetrain and brakes. Having spent time on both the RockShox suspension and Shimano components that are found on the Torque On 8, we have no reservations about their relative performance of that build, and believe at that price it's a fantastic deal. Our first ride impressions, however, are from the Torque On 9. A lower bash guard, upper chain guide, accessory charging port, some clever cable management features, a quote, normal stem, tidy wire through the bars setup, and an overall clean aesthetic round out the Torque's composition. DT Swiss H Series wheels are ready for eMTB demands with steel driver bodies and more robust spokes. Maxxis tires, a 2.5-inch front and 2.6-inch rear with Exo Plus casing, handle the rubber side. Considering the 53-pound heft of our Torque, we could see double down or even DH casing tires being a welcomed addition for support and stability through turns, jump faces, and other compressions. Suspension characteristics have been altered from the non-powered Torque to take advantage of the motor. The relationship between drivetrain and suspension is distanced thanks to the 85 Nm of electric power. Traction is improved with lower anti-squat values, which also minimizes pedal kickback through the travel. Finally, mid-stroke support has increased due to the extra sprung mass of the 53-pound bike. Regardless of build, 27 5-inch wheels are the only option on the Torque. Sorry, Eugene M. Our first questions to Canyon: can we run the Torque On as a mullet? And what about a dual crown fork? Canyon said they do not recommend a 29-inch front wheel because of potentially negative geometry changes. Hit that Spectral On if you want a mullet. And additionally, a dual crown fork will have limited steering capacity due to the size of the head tube junction area. Compared to the regular Torque, the geometry has been tweaked for the Torque On. Things are kept simple with no onboard geometry adjustments. Reach has been bumped up, 460 mils on our medium. Head angle is a fun slack 63.5 degrees, and chainstays are a stubby 430 mils across all sizes. The elephant in the room? A 74-degree seat tube angle. Yeah, we thought the same thing when we first saw it too. Canyon say they went with the Shimano EP8 motor setup for 2 reasons: the quiet, natural-feeling character of the motor and Shimano's strong in-place dealer and service network, which could be critical for support with the direct-to-consumer brand. We've had time aboard a few different EP8 bikes, all pleasurable experience thanks to the versatility of the eTube app and the motor's 85 Nm of power. Of note is the Torque On's use of the smaller 504 watt-hour battery. It is removable, and markets outside of the US are luckier once again with an option of buying an additional 504 watt-hour battery at a discounted rate when purchased with the bike. Americans are just going to have to ride in eco mode for those long days in the saddle. Canyon's reasoning for the smaller battery? Well, they were seeking a better handling bike by saving about 600 grams over a 630 watt-hour cell. Additionally, there's a smaller piece of real estate being occupied on the bike by the battery. There are no bump stops or knock block type apparatus, since the down tube and fork clear each other. And there's room for a full-size water bottle. Would we notice 600 grams to get more go time? Seems doubtful. The torque on is already robust at 53 pounds, but we appreciate the water bottle space and the lack of fork bumpers. If you're an adventure rider seeking long days and big outings, you'll have to plan accordingly with the torque on. The alloy frame is beefy and the stout pivots use double angular contact bearings. The torque on meets Canyon's Cat 5 durability rating, which is the same as their Sender DH bike. A fun little fact is that Canyon used proprietary grease in the bearings to maximize their life. E-bikes have a lot of mass, and the forces at play were not taken lightly by the engineers. Our first rides indicate that this is a stiff and beefy bike. On the trail, traction is ample, and there's a liveliness that is surprising for such a robust bike. The torque on will pop and maneuver, but it will also plow just fine with its compliant 180-175 mil travel combo. The slack head angle keeps the torque on stable at speed, and the wheelbase is a happy medium at max velocity. The low-slung mass was fantastic in high-speed sweeping turns. One of our test riders noted on the descents that the torque on felt very reminiscent of the Santa Cruz Heckler that we tested last summer, a favorite in our e-bike group test. On the way up, the Shimano EP8 motor does its thing well, as we've grown accustomed. We ran the stock Profile 2 for our first rides without any tweaking. Trail mode in Profile 2 is a blast. There is no shortage of power to get up steep climbs. The hiccup with the torque on and steep climbs is the seat angle and the chainstay length. When asked about its laid-back saddle position, Canyon replied that the seat angle could be relaxed for e-bike use because climbing power comes from the motor more than the rider. We could not rectify that response on paper, and that was not our experience on the trail. Both testers who rode the torque have legs that are on the short side, so the seat post is well down in the seat tube. It took an incredible amount of focus to prevent wheel lift and even looping out on steep climbs. Dropping the seat post halfway, dropping our elbows, and leaning into the hill while performing a hybrid stand-sit climb technique would get us up the Gnar, but the situation wasn't ideal. When hitting those let's try to go up that because we're on an e-bike climbs, the front end of the torque on became exhaustively light, making steering quite difficult. Adding to that wheelie potential are the 430 mil chainstays, which are otherworldly short for an e-bike. The supportive e-bike specific saddle is a nice touch and almost seems necessary with the recliner-like feel of that 74-degree lean. We can only imagine how amplified the light front end would be for riders with longer legs and higher seat posts. And on that note, a 150 mil dropper is the longest offered on any size torque, including the large and the XL. Another size-specific note is that the small and medium torques come with 160 mil crank arms. Large and XL run 165. 160 millimeters is pretty darn short, and winding up a speedy cadence to keep the motor humming was noticeably less natural than what we're used to. We have to imagine the short cranks are quite necessary on the torque on. With 15 mils of bottom bracket drop on a 175 mil travel bike, the ride height of the torque on is very low. If self-shuttling downhill trails where steep climbs or big day adventures aren't a regular occurrence, then the torque on should be on your short list because of its awesome descending capability. If regularly steep climbs or accessing the long, crushing ups and downs of wilderness OHV trails is on your e-bike requirement list, then you'll probably be disappointed with the 504 watt-hour battery life or the ascending shortcomings of such a slack seat-tube angle and short chainstays. We wouldn't totally throw the baby out with the bathwater just because of the climbing characteristics of the torque on. There's plenty of fun to be had with this nimble, lively eMTB if you're willing to adjust to its relaxed uphill nature. In addition, the torque on delivers an excellent spec for the money. 3.5 out of 5 stars on Vital MTB. To learn more about Canyon e-bikes available in your region, hit up canyon.com.
Oh my god! That was really deep.